Hello, and welcome to Jason Cabinet's Experience. I'm your host, Jason Cabinets. The Jason Cabinet's Experience is brought to you by Cabinets HR. At Cabinets HR, we deliver HR companies with 49 or fewer people. With our HR platform, we're providing you access to a dedicated HR business partner. Our guest today is Michele Mehl. Michele, you ready to be great today?
I am.
Michele is a founder of, how you say the name?
Excy.
Of Excy, a medical fitness company committed to delivering better and different ways to help those with injuries, health conditions, and disabilities conveniently connect high-quality exercise to their lives at home, work, and on the go. Prior to starting Excy, Michele was a co-founder of Buzz Builders, a public relations agency focused on early-stage venture-scale startups, where she worked closely with founders to develop and execute unique marketing and communication strategies to position these companies as leaders in the fields of e-commerce, software, hardware, fitness, lifestyle, venture capital, and other industries. Personally, Michele focuses on living an active lifestyle, the husband of nearly 25 years, her teenage son, and 2 German Shepherd dogs. Michele, thanks for being here too. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So Michele, first, are you still involved with the American Cancer Society as on the board of directors?
You know, I'm no longer on the board because I just got a little bit too busy, but I am involved and then also involved locally with the American Heart Association.
Can you talk more about your role with the American Cancer Society, what you've done from the past, what you're doing now with them?
Yeah, sure. So just, cancer has touched my life, and I think it's pretty much touched everybody's life at this point, and just wanting to be involved. So I joined the board and actively involved in trying to help on the marketing front. Marketing is my background. It's kind of what I'm good at, if you will. And so really getting just like, what kind of programs can they do? How can we fundraise? How can we raise more money? How can we get closer to a cure? Right. And I mean, there's just so many amazing things that the American Cancer Society does. So just trying to support in any way that I can here locally, with other people who are extremely passionate about this. There's some people in the, who they've had cancer themselves, and so they join. And then there's other people just, cancer's touched them in some way, their father, their mother, their sister, aunt, uncle. So I had a dear friend of mine whose mom died of breast cancer and young, really young. And so that's why I joined. So there's just only so much I can do, so I do. And now there's like a women's organization here where we get together, and now we're on the American Heart Association and, doing a lot of education on that front. So I dabble, I'm still in the American Cancer Society, and I'll still do my walks. But I'm trying to spend a little bit more time on the Heart Association too.
For the walks you're talking about, I think they do once a year. Like I can't recall, like the cancer relay or something like that.
Yeah, Relay for Life.
Relay for Life. Yeah, Relay for Life. Yeah. Can you talk about the points of giving back to your community and over the way you want to? Like, why it's important for you to do that?
A lot of times I kind of spend. Well, there's multiple things. There's giving back to your community with your own kids, right? Whether it's their schools, their baseball teams, sponsoring their baseball teams, sponsoring Little League, whatever you can do, to help sponsor other kids who can't afford maybe to play a sport. So there's that front. And then on the startup front, I mean, I've been working with startups for a long time. And so I try to make myself available as a mentor, like even this lady who I've been buying coffee from for years, like she's my barista every day. I pull in, I get a coffee, and she's been going through school, and she just graduated, and helping her find a job. So anything that I can do to kind of help people, especially on this entrepreneurial journey, it's really tough. I mean, it's hard. It's no joke, right? It's a lonely adventure sometimes. And so just being like a soundboard or having cocktails or, organizing paddle boards with a bunch of other women who are entrepreneurs where we can, put some wine on a paddle board and kind of chit chat about business while we're out and about. So
is it amazing how many times like you go to a Starbucks or whatever the case be, like, man, I want to hire that person, right? Because the customer service is so great. You're honestly, like, what are you doing? Like,
I honestly, like, if you watch a barista, I mean, they are the best at multitasking.
Yes.
So I absolutely watch what they do. And then sometimes if you're in a line, like it hasn't been that way too much lately, right? But you're in a line, like inside a Starbucks, and there's a couple things I see. What is the barista doing? How good are they? Right. And then talking to them, getting to know them if you're there all the time. But I also like the younger people who are in line, and they're multitasking. They're on social media. They're sharing this, they're sharing that. And I'm like, oh man, I could hire you just to help me with content marketing, right? Like, come do some videos for me. I mean, there's Yeah, they are so talented, and sometimes they don't even know that it is a marketable skill.
They don't, because see everyone else doing it too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, but they are. Even like my son, I'm like, hey, come over here, teach me how to do this. I don't know how to do this, and it's kind of fun.
So let's talk about something different fast. Let's talk about the current weather in Seattle.
Oh,
It is
God.
like freaking, like, it's like, I think it's like April 13th, April 14th, and it's like,
Yeah.
and it's snowing right now. Like I drove from Tacoma to here, snow the whole way. Half the whole highway has snow.
Yeah.
Like I've been 12 years. I never remember snowing here in Seattle in April.
You know what I called it yesterday? I was on the phone with somebody and I said, the weather here right now is like a woman going through menopause. There's the only other way to describe it. It's like 1 minute it's hot, the next minute it's cold. You're like changing clothes. I mean, it's insane. I was on a walk and I was on a kind of a hillside with my dog, and it's hailing on me. And I'm looking out and it's sunny. And then it's south of me, it's raining. And I was just like, this is insane. I mean, and I called my sister and she's like, what are you doing on a walk? It's like pouring down rain here. And she lives in Ording. And I mean, they were having like major storms and I was on a walk, it was
Yeah, this is where this is insane right now.
It really is.
So back to the nonprofit stuff you do for American Cancer, American Heart. So a lot of people want to do good things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's like literally thousands of nonprofits out there. Some good, not so good.
Yeah.
How is your advice to someone like to donate their time or money to a nonprofit that can take advantage of them? That makes sense, mm-hmm. Right? Because a lot of nonprofits are out there for themselves and don't take care of the customers, right?
Yeah. It's interesting that you asked that question. A friend of mine was like, if you have is it better to donate your time to a cause or donate money to a cause? And sometimes I think like in the startup world, maybe somebody starts a company. And the next thing you know, you're not making any money and you're trying to pay your bills and for a really good cause. And it's like, hey, could you have actually made a bigger impact on that cause by keeping your day job, right? And writing checks to that nonprofit. So it goes back to in terms of your passion, why you start the company. I mean, for me, it's like word of mouth. If I see a friend, there's the big ones like American Cancer Society, American Heart Association, but there's other small ones too that I think are really, there's this woman online who I've connected with, and she has cerebral palsy, and she has started a foundation for people with cerebral palsy, and she exercises a lot. She's amazing. So I feel like if I have a one-on-one connection with somebody that I trust, then I'm all in, on what I can do to help or support.
So next, you mentioned earlier about, how you want young people to do stuff for you, like all the tech stuff, content mm-hmm. marketing. So I think you're not giving yourself credit, because I saw that you did an article where you're on Discord.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not like a new platform. It's not that, most people don't know, right? Talk about how you got on Discord and your experience with Discord.
Oh, I can geek out with you on this one a little bit.
Yes, definitely geek out.
So what's funny, I am a huge fan of How I Built This, right?
Oh yeah.
I listened to it for NPR.
That's a great podcast.
I feel like it's my therapy. Okay. So I go on a walk every day with my dogs and I listen to How I Built This. And the founder of Discord was on there. And I was just listening, in terms of what he's talking about, how he's getting users to engage and connect. And I actually would love to start a Discord community. It's just okay, do I have time? Can I do that? But other people, it's way more of an engagement platform than I think anything else, more than LinkedIn, more than Facebook. They're not trying to sell me a bunch of stupid ads. And people are super passionate and, and it's an interesting audience. And so I was on this walk and I was like, wow, I actually think I could maybe create a Discord community for, people who have struggles with medical fitness and, for our customers, and even bigger than just our customers, just medical fitness challenges as a whole, which covers so much area. So I heard about Discord through that and kind of I'm noodling on that a little bit. And then a friend of mine, he's actually here local. He is in the process of building a transformative way of, let's say, connecting what I will say the internet of value, whether it's coins, whether it's crypto, whether it's documents, lawyer documents, in the metaverse and all of it together with NFTs, metaverse, all this stuff. And what he's doing is completely fascinating to me. So I joined Discord as part of the community that they're building, and it's called Verus. And you can Verus coin, it's a crypto coin, but it's the protocol that Verus is building for the metaverse, if you will. To me, what they're doing will eventually be, it's like the internet. Who built it? Who's building it? Nobody really knows. It's kind of like an open source community, if you will, targeted on building the next foundation of what's going to happen in the metaverse. And I'm not just talking like porn and, having $1 billion ships, that are NFTs. It is way beyond that. And so anyway, I'm on their community and kind of engaged and trying to help them a little bit too.
Is it funny whenever the new tech comes out, a new platform, porn is like always one of the first ones to take advantage of it?
Because they're smart marketers, right? Sex sells. I mean, it just does, right?
Yes.
So
Discord, I'm could be wrong, but it didn't start like eventually at the first like a developer communication platform, I think.
And I mean, it's a lot of gamers, and
like
I'm
gamers,
not a gamer. I think I'm curious on what they're doing, and right now it's very early. I think early adopter. But here's my barista story again. I run ideas by baristas all the
Smart.
I pulled in and I was like, hey, have you guys ever heard of Discord before? Because I'm kind of intrigued by it. Like, have you heard about it? And they both looked at each other, and it was really funny. They gave their like, why is she asking us this question? I'm like, because I'm just curious. And she was like, I'm actually on it. And the other woman was like, I'm on it too. And they were both on it for a game. And I forget the name of the game, but it was like, I forget what it was. But you go through kind of a game, and then the community itself is on Discord, but they're talking about the game.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can create all kind of little communities on there. And this morning I actually was on there and I started to create one, and then I got busy and I was like, okay, it's on my to-do list.
So what other kind of tech are you on? Like what's your favorite tech right now to play around with? Is you're curious about
tech? I think with what Varus is doing, so Mike Tatongi, he is ex Microsoft. I helped him launch his a Kickstarter campaign, and he's kind of the lead developer of it. And so I've been kind of fascinated by just seeing what they're doing. I also so I have a 16-year-old son, and I'm always trying to figure out like ways that what he's interested in or things that I feel like I can introduce him to. So he's super interested in the stock market.
Yeah, I remember I saw the post on LinkedIn where you're like, hey, if I'm stalking you, because, my son's introducing this, and this,
So sometimes I feel like I'm more interested in finding things that he might be interested in. So like I gave him some money to invest in stocks, and, we're kind of now I find myself checking his stocks and see how he's doing. And, so it's kind of fascinating in that way. But mostly I think with what's going on in blockchain, what's going on in crypto, it's so early stage, like it, kind of hypey, if you will. But, I remember when we were marketing Web 2.0, right? It was like, oh, the jargon, right? But I think we're just scratching the surface of truly what Web 3, what Web 3 is going to be.
Yes. Next, let's go back in the past. You were you started a company called Buzz Builders for 05 to 21. Can you talk about like why you started, what you and mainly what you learned from that startup in that company that you're taking advantage of now with Excy?
Yeah. It's funny that, so I started Buzz Builders. I was pregnant with my son, and I had worked, how do I get this? But I started Buzz Builders because I couldn't get pregnant. That's why I started at the company. I was a director at a company called Avantail working in network security. And then before that, I was a director for a Bay Area company. I was traveling I was traveling to the Bay Area like every week for a long time. And that's a lot. So then I was struggling with fertility there. So I left there to get a local job so that I would be home. And this is way too much information, but this is why I started the company. And then I was at Avantail for a long time, and I still struggled with infertility stuff. And I was like, that's it. I want to get pregnant. So I left Avantail. And then I was like, what am I going to do? I started consulting on the side, and had little kind of deals here and there. And then I brought in a friend who I worked with at Avantail, and I actually replaced her at Avantail, and we just connected. We connected during the interview when I replaced her. And I kept bringing her into like, hey, come do this account with me, come do this account with me. And then she would bring me in, and then we're just like, hey, let's just do this together. And we both had strong startup backgrounds, and just decided that, hey, let's start this company. Let's focus exclusively on startups, and, let's see what we can do.
And it was mainly like PR communications.
And then that transition to kind of digital marketing, if you will. And, we got to work with just amazing entrepreneurs,
So for the startups, it was like early stage.
early stage.
So like there was a C round stage, A round, like had a certain amount of revenue, A to B. Okay.
A to B, sometimes seed.
Okay.
Sometimes seed or a kind of a decent angel round, if you will. And then usually just the angel kind of would know who we are and then bring us in. But usually, and then they would outgrow us. We never wanted to work with giant companies. It was like, hey, we'll do all your upfront stuff. We'll launch the company. We'll get you out there, figure out some messaging, help you kind of generate awareness. And then, sometimes it took companies like 6 months to outgrow us because they were on a ridiculous ride. And then I think our longest client was like 7 years,
Oh, wow.
So they were, it was like a longer, it depends on the explosive growth, right?
And well, most of the clients here in Seattle, you're nationwide.
Nationwide, but primarily here in Seattle.
Okay.
So Zulily, very early stage, OfferUp, very early stage. White Pages now, offshoot of that was Haya. So we launched Haya, what was at White Pages. Wet Paint, Cheeseburger Network. Like we had a lot of fun.
So from experience, what did most founders or entrepreneurs get wrong about public branding, personal branding, PR, that kind of stuff? Because like most startup founders, like their tech product, build a product.
It's funny. I mean, I think we were super lucky in terms of who we're working with. By the time they came to us, there wasn't, there wasn't a lot of fixing necessarily. Sometimes you have founders who they're all tech background, but the ones that we've worked with have always respected marketing. Like, so we had a policy, like no jackasses. So I don't, I think I've run into more common themes of what they are alike as opposed to what they got wrong. I mean, it's like by the time we connected with them and, we go through a pitch process and we get to know them, we're kind of picky on who we bring on. So I would think there's more commonalities in terms of who they are as people, as opposed to what they got wrong.
And so how about your background? Like, how did you get into PR? Was that your degrees in PR communications? You just fell into by accident?
Yeah, no. So I was in school and I really wanted to be a physical therapist. And I played 2 sports in college and I was just like, this is not possible. Like, how am I going to miss all these labs? I can't miss all these labs, And so I just kind of didn't declare my major for a long time up until I was a junior. And I took one class in PR and the professor just had a huge impact on me. Just really connected with her. She cared. I think she kind of saw me as a diamond in the rough, if you will, which kind of a theme, I think, of my life. And she invested in me and I invested back, and I just loved it. And so I declared my major, I asked her to come on stage and, like hand me my diploma, just huge impact on me. And I loved it. And then it was so fun. The year I graduated college was 1995. And I think it was 1994, there was a baseball strike and I was dead set on sports PR. I love sports, right? My background's in sports. I love sports. I love competition. I love everything about being an athlete, if you will. So I was like pretty much had a great in at the San Francisco Giants. And then there was a strike and I was, so I came out of school. I started working at Champ Sports and retail. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you go to school, you do all this stuff. And now I'm working in retail. I did that for a couple months. And then I landed at a company in San Francisco where they were doing event management and PR. And I first started doing events and I almost got fired. I was horrible at it. I hated it. I didn't like anything about it. And then they brought me in to do PR for a very tech-centric company. Distributed computing, databases, how do you move all this data everywhere? And I was like, oh my God, I love this. And I never considered myself a technical person or like with a technical background. But I started working on that and loved it. I mean, I just loved tech and I never looked back. Everything I've done since then has been tech.
What sports did you play in college?
Field hockey and softball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you played that stuff since then, I'm guessing, or?
For a little bit, like I would do things on the side. I was playing actually softball one time as an adult here. And I was in the outfield and I look and I see my kid, who was like 4 years old at the time, fell on his bike. He's trying to ride with no hands, busted his face on something. And I'm like running from the outfield, jumping a fence, like took my shirt off and he's got blood everywhere, put it on him. We drive him to the hospital. That's the last time I played softball.
Okay.
So
with ice hockey and field hockey, is there a difference in the rules or anything besides the what you play on?
yeah, I mean, field hockey is kind of like soccer.
Okay.
You know, there's similar rules. I don't know ice hockey very well in terms of offsides, and you're using a stick and trying to get something in a goal. But field hockey is on the grass. It's kind of like soccer, maybe a combination of soccer and lacrosse.
Okay.
It's crazy. I love it. I've had
so anything
a few stitches from it.
anything physical.
Oh yeah,
like
it's
doing?
so fun.
Cool. So with Buzz Builders, why did you shut it down?
Okay, so my business partner at the time, she she just had a baby, and then she got pregnant with twins, and that was just too much. So she stepped away, and I was kind of doing a lot of it by myself. And that's actually how it led to the creation of Excy. I was working a lot of hours. I was running Buzz Builders by myself, and kind of going through, like, I was missing her, in our day-to-day interactions. And then I wasn't exercising. I was extremely stressed out. And I was sitting at the skate park with my son after running him to like some doctor's appointment, and then just some other session and some other session. And I looked down and I had like 2,200 steps for the day. And I had been having like chest pain, and my dad's had 2 heart attacks. And I just had this, like, in his 50s, and I had this aha moment where it's like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right. So I decided, so I started Excy, I was sitting on the bench. I'm like, what would happen, right, if this bench could become an exercise bike, like just wherever I am, that I could actually exercise, in the midst of everyday life. And, while I'm on the sideline of my kids, like, incredibly busy life, and still, do my business thing and do everything. And that's why I had the idea for Excy. And I kept Buzz Builders going and funded the business. And then I actually went all in on Excy, like completely all in, and didn't do anything with Buzz Builders. And that was like, I think I did that out of pressure of feeling like I had to go all in order to raise money. Yeah, so I kind of shut it down, and then I went back on that. And I still do consulting to this day.
Yeah. So you've been around with tech for a long time. What are some pros and cons that you noticed with tech through the last like 10, 20, how many long? Like what's been getting better about tech, what's been getting worse about tech? And what's your point of view on that?
I think tech is getting better at data. Like I look at even my Apple Watch, right? I love this thing. Like, in my life, there's only a few pieces of tech that I'm fully addicted to. My phone, like everybody else, that I wish I wasn't addicted to. But my watch, like, in terms of everything that it's tracking, right? Helping me stand, helping me move, counting my calories, telling me what my max, oxygen levels are. Like, and I think it's only going to get smarter. I think they're trying to do blood pressure, falling. Like, who the heck would have thought you would get all that from a watch, right? I mean, that's insane. So I think I think just the ability to capture data, act on the data, the biometrics of what's happening behind, and then the intelligence that can come from that. I mean, I hope at some point, my holy grail, if you will, especially as it comes to Excy, if I can figure out the success factors of what makes people feel good when they exercise, when they have Parkinson's disease, what makes them feel good when they exercise and they have MS, right? What happens to somebody who has depression, anxiety, and then we introduce exercise and we keep track of the data along the way, and then all of a sudden it's connected to Alexa or some other tool that's like, hey, we noticed that you're feeling down, right? Or we noticed that you're actually, the endorphins that you get from exercise, makes your depression and anxiety go down. And we noticed you haven't done it in a few days. Like, hey, it's time, right? Like, we need to get you back in that. So it's data. I think it's data.
So should we be concerned about, I mean, of course, from my point of view, there's no privacy anyway, right? Not really.
Yeah.
Should we be concerned about loss of privacy? Like, all these companies know everything about us. Should I be concerned? Or?
Like the other day, my husband, we're talking, and Alexa chimes in randomly out of the most random time. And I was like, why you obviously listening, right? Or one time I was doing a live thing like this, and I told, it was like for during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I told Alexa to play Pink, right, in the video. I was like giving an example to my audience of like Pink, right? And like playing it. And it turned Pink on in people's homes. Right.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. I had my customers, they're like, hey,
insane.
you just turned pink on in my house. And I'm like, well, you should know pink, right? Pink's the best. But that is like a little bit crazy.
Yeah, that's a little like too stalkerish.
Right. Like all of a sudden what happens, if, you're turning something on and people don't want it on and it has bad intentions, so I don't know.
You remember this happened a few years ago where Amazon had that idea where somehow where the delivery person would have access to your door. They could go in your house, unlock the door. I'm like, what? Who thought of this, right?
Yeah.
And I think they got rid of it. I haven't heard anything about it recently.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I would not be okay with that.
No. So next, change the subject. So in your LinkedIn profile, you have a lot of roles.
Okay.
Wife, mom, sister, aunt, friend, mentor, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about how important each role is for you, how you do all these roles and
Yeah.
how you like keep them going insane from doing all these roles?
Yeah. It's funny you're paying attention. It's funny I put that on there because I feel like, especially during this entrepreneur journey, we connect ourselves too much to our like win or fail of who we are in our business. And I have found myself doing that, right? Like, oh, I didn't get enough sales this week and feeling like a failure or whatever. And I just like, you're so much more than that, right? And even if the business fails or whatever succeeds, you're way more than the company. And so I wrote that on there a long time ago. Yeah. And I kind of it's like people ask me all the time on advice and I'm like, don't get divorced and don't mess up your kids. Right. I mean, when you're like, go all in on a company, it is all consuming, like and sometimes unhealthy way if you let it. And so, trying to squeeze in being even a decent aunt is, a hard thing to do, but I try to prioritize it. Am I great at it? No, but I do it when I can. But prioritizing, the relationships, my marriage, I've been married for next year, it'll be 25 years. And, it's a hard thing to to create a company. And so, I asked my son and my husband, like permission to do the company because I knew it was going to be insane, so it's like prioritizing that from the beginning. I feel like it's important to identify who you are outside of the company.
Can you talk about the importance of having your like husband, son, close family, close friends support you?
I think it's everything, I remember when I first started Excy, I gave up a very good income and I used my savings. I used credit cards, you name it, to get the company started. And, all of a sudden a lot more burden fell on my husband's shoulders. And, financially, I'm distracted. I'm not getting enough sleep, or whatever. And so I did ask both of them for permission, like I said, coming into the whole thing. But without their support, I don't think it's possible, because they, like a teenager, they can be little turds. And, like imagine, them just throwing it in your face, like, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that. And so it's like a contract from the beginning, an agreement that, hey, I am going to miss some things. And that's just the way it is. And, you're going to have to be an independent kid.
Can you talk about this? I think we don't talk about this enough, right? Like life still goes on, right? Like you still got to do the laundry.
Yeah.
You got to go to the doctor, you got to oil change, right? And
Yeah.
we don't talk about all the life still goes on, right?
Yeah.
How do you manage everything, like the startup and everything you're doing and still like do like all the real stuff, so to speak?
I deprioritize house stuff. Let's just say that.
I've heard that from several people.
I don't cook. I hate cooking. I hate the laundry. I hate cleaning. And it's so funny because one of the things that, like when you're doing a startup and you're redoing your budget, things like a house cleaner gets like pushed down. And that was one of the first things that we got rid of. And I'm just like, this is, so my house is not always spotless by any means. I have so much laundry on the couch right now that I mean, I don't even know where to start unfolding it. Like just, so my husband helps a lot. My husband, he helps with the dishes and laundry. And, it's sometimes we have this battle of like, I wonder who's going to get to it first. Like if we just run out of forks and we run out of spoons, like which one of us is going to go do dishes first, but and we try to like get my son to unload the dishwasher, do his laundry stuff. And I've never done my husband's laundry. He's always done his own laundry. I did his laundry one time we were dating, and I shrunk everything and turned some things like discolored, and he never let me touch his laundry again. So I just the household itself, I keep it on the tracks, but it's probably one of the few things in my life where I'm actually like try to be a perfectionist. I don't give a lot of weight to it.
Can you talk about the importance of exercise?
Yeah, I mean, for me, exercise is medicine. And so that's how I think of it. I think of it as a miracle pill that we all have access to. And our particular role in that is to make it more accessible to people who have struggled getting access to exercise. And it's, everything from managing depression, anxiety, cancer, preventing heart disease, obesity, all of, society ailments, being sedentary. To me, it is the holy grail of health. In addition, it's like everybody always does this diet or exercise diet, like you have to pick, right? And I'm not a fan of that at all. But I think sometimes if you can pick like one thing and try to be good at it or better at it, even just moving a little bit more than you did, yesterday, and being a little less sedentary than you were the day before, then it's game changing for our health. And it's not just, and I'm talking about being able to play and lift up your grandkids, playing tag with your kids. Not how, if people care what they look like in a bikini or their jeans or whatever is your motivator. But for me, it's like, it's functional fitness, if you will, functional exercise, and how we prevent disease and how we like live our best life. So I think it's the miracle pill to lots of society ailments.
Does the type of exercise matter?
Does the type of exercise matter?
Like bicycling versus lifting weights versus yoga versus whatever?
I think it's whatever brings you joy, whatever you're going to actually stick with. If you're going to, there's the guidelines that that are given to us. It's 150 minutes of cardio, and it's 2 days of strength training every week. And if you can, my goal, I don't care what you do, is to get to the bare minimum requirement to prevent the onset and progression of disease. And I mean, and 80% of us fail at that. 80%. Like, and we live in jobs where we sit down a lot. Even if you're at a standing desk, it doesn't matter. If you're sedentary all day and you're a triathlete, you got to move more during the day. So I think it's whatever makes you happy on getting to the bare minimum. And if you want to do more, great, but get to the bare minimum.
Does it matter if you exercise by yourself or with a group of people?
I think it's whatever motivates you. Like for me, my time slot that I exercise is about 8:30 at night, and it's while we're watching TV. I pedal from the couch, I pedal from a chair, I lie down, I pedal my arms, and I do Excy. And that, it's funny, for like, we have every piece of exercise equipment that you'll need. We have a treadmill, we have a Bowflex, I've got a lot of things in the basement, and we've always had it in the basement. And I never realized just how much of a barrier it was for me to go exercise by myself in the basement. It just sounds so simple, but if I could, so I exercise while watching TV. My dog is my pillow. I'm petting my dog. My husband's sitting next to me. When my son was little, now he has the driver's license, he's never home. That being able to sit down in a room, and spend quality time, talk about the show on TV, like that eliminated the barrier for me. And so, I mean, I have exercised consistently every single week to meet the bare minimum of exercise since I created Excy, since we created the prototype.
What's the longest period of days you've gone without exercising since you started the company?
Maybe 3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, I just, I have Excy. I sit it on my fireplace, like it's on a mantle, or we have a low mantle, and it's sitting there, and it kind of guilts you into exercise. Like if I'm sitting in our living room, I'm not moving, not doing something, I'm being sedentary on social media or doing something, it like dares me to do something. Like, why not pedal while you're doing those things?
I should have said, do you want to sit it up right here so people can see it?
Sure.
I should have thought about that before we even started.
So it's adjustable height. It's kind of, but it's so funny. I had to walk around the building, right, to get into your building. I'm like, who else can carry the equivalent of upper body ergometer, which is giant, right? Or exercise bike, and like just walk around a building with it with no problem. So kind of fun.
So next question. So you have a patent on this, right?
Yeah, we have two.
Can you talk about why you decided to get patents and just talk through the patent process?
Yeah. So the patent process is interesting. We decided to go down the patent route because I think that what we've built, I mean, we have core intellectual property built into it that eventually sometime, hopefully somebody can license from us and reach more people. And I think it builds value in the company. And yeah, so we have two patents. We have one on how we prevent it from scooting. So there's all kinds of portable exercise bikes out there, but they scoot away from somebody as soon as it becomes more intense. So it's wonder if you just want to kind of pedal leisurely, if you will, the exercise bikes that are out there for like $50, they might do the job, right? They're still going to scoot away from you, but maybe it's just light enough. But I wanted like intense exercise to light exercise, range of motion, working through torn ACL, whatever, right? And so that patent, it prevents it from scooting. And so that's one of them. The other patent is we have another device that it fits on a weight rack. It's one of my favorite products. It's such a great product. And you just put it on the weight rack and you can move it up and down the weight rack, right? The challenge is not everybody has a weight rack. It's a big thing. So that's more like been on physical therapy clinics. And yeah, it's one of probably our least sold SKU, one of my favorite products.
So I'm guessing you have like some kind of like instruction manual or video things for people
yeah.
they can learn how to use the platform.
Yep. Yeah. We have, I've done a lot of videos, lots of live videos like this, for our customers. I call them the Excy family. You come into the Excy family, you get, my cell phone and anything else that you need. So we have onboarding videos. We have exercise videos. I've got videos from physical therapists on how to properly use it for multiple positions and different ailments, if you will.
Is your main customer physical therapy people or just individual people or just
it's individual people? It really is. I mean, when it comes down to it, like it's kind of me and people like me. I've been active my entire life, and where Excy really became defined on who our product market fit and going after, we did a Kickstarter. And during the process of creating Excy, I broke my leg. I got a blood clot, and I was using the prototype. And next thing you know, my heart rate's at 160. I am completely non-weight bearing, right? I'm pedaling Excy with my hands, getting my heart rate through the roof, right? And not only was that good for my health and processing the blood clot, but it's like my sanity, right? So if you take somebody who's active, right? They've been active and all of a sudden they have Parkinson's disease. We have one of our customers, he ran marathons. He's done so many amazing things. Used to ride his bike, used to do all this stuff, and he gets Parkinson's disease. He can't see, his balance is off a little bit. He's older. So he uses us. So our core demographic is it's an active person, usually has an age-related injury, disease diagnosis. And that's where the idea of not being able to exercise and, is just overwhelming to them. Sometimes that is, somebody's super active, they get a spinal cord injury, right, from skiing. We've had, or some of the times I swear when I have a friend who's in their 40s and all of a sudden they start playing tennis, I'm like, oh God, all right, I know I'm going to see you in a little bit with a torn ACL. So, not to laugh at that, but it's true because I've done it myself. I tore my hamstring, like trying to be super mom in my son's baseball practice, showing these little, teenage kids that I could still, catch a ball, and I almost passed out because I tore my hamstring so bad. It was horrible. So it's like you're active, and just the idea of not having access to exercise is overwhelming.
Is there a different choice in colors?
No, it's no. So we started off black and red, like every fitness product out there, right? I felt like I was doing the whole, like, I don't know, I thought it would be sexy, but we went to yellow, and I think it's because it's happy. It's like, happy faces are yellow, and we have a lot of customers who pedal, like Excy from bed. In a hospital bed in the ICU, and it's like, why not bring a little happiness to the whole thing? So that's why it's yellow. My son has been trying to get me to paint it blue forever, or do what does he want? He wants blue for sure, but yeah, no, we're keeping it yellow.
Can you talk about the engineering piece? I'm guessing this wasn't an easy engineering thing to put together, right?
It's not. It's a tiny little device. There's a lot of utility in it. I don't know how much you can see.
They can see everything.
Okay, so right? It adjusts in height. So, I mean, like taking it, it's like a clam, and you can see, I can hold this up here really easily. So you can store easily. It fits in an overhead on an airplane.
That's a big plus.
Yeah. I travel with it all the time. I can't help it when I travel, I take videos because I just think it's awesome. So it opens up and closes like a clam. It adjusts in height. So this pin and the height, like in this position right here in front of a chair, you pedal it like a normal recumbent exercise bike. The material that I mentioned that prevents it from scooting. So this black material, you sit on it, you lie on it, you stand on it. That's what prevents it from scooting. And just so, and adjustable heights, right? So like on the high height here, and you just use a pin to lock it in. This is where a lot of people use it for pedaling their arms. But even so, whether you're standing or sitting, like, so a lot of times I sit here and then I pedal my arms. It's my favorite position. It's probably one of the most frequent way that I use Excy. And then cushions on one side for your hands, and then on your feet. So pedal with your feet and then your hands. And then the resistance is up here. You just turn a knob, and goes from 2 to 70 pounds. So it can get, you can't outgrow Excy. I'll give me any athlete on the planet and I will make them suffer. But not that we have to suffer, because we don't.
How many versions of this did y'all go through, like, before you decide, okay, we're going to release it?
So the Kickstarter, so we had a prototype. I should show it. Like, I'll send you a picture of the prototype. I have it in my office. We have two. So this is like the prototype. Everything in the prototype actually ended up what we patented. The whole idea of the material that you sit on. So that was the first design. Then we had our Kickstarter design, and it changed a lot between what we did on Kickstarter and then what it is
from
today.
Users' feedback and stuff like that.
User feedback, like the bar was removable, for example. And then we discovered that people had a hard time taking the bar on and off. And then also, by and large, they didn't want to take it off. So we made it permanent. The way that we, so can I stand up?
Yeah.
So I'll show you. This little piece was one of the core kind of changes. So we have this little knob here, and it opens up. Okay, so that changes the footprint of it, and there's a bunch of different positions that you can do, and then you just kind of put it back in and lock down. And the first time, how we did the slide, it's the slide. It was different, in our Kickstarter one. So we just focused on like making it easier and easier and easier. The tension, so when we first started going out, we were focused mostly on pedaling forward. And then I just got addicted to pedaling it backwards. I'm like, this thing is great. Like I can have, so before we had like a certain number of resistance in the front, and then you couldn't equal it in the back. So you would pedal like forward, and then it would be harder to pedal it in reverse. And so that was like, we changed the resistance and how we're doing resistance so that you can do it equal in both directions on the fly. And it's a game changer. Like you just use all different muscles when you pedal in reverse.
How do you do customer service? Like there's like a phone number people call,
Yeah.
or some kind of, how do you do customer service for this?
Just they can send us an email, they can call, whenever somebody becomes a new customer, they get a welcome email. Here's all the tips, tricks, videos, guide, everything that you could possibly need. And if they need help setting up or they have any additional questions, then they can email or they can call us.
Is it like some kind of online Excy community that people can join?
This is where Discord,
yeah.
I'm a little fascinated on the Discord side. I've been to, I gave up Facebook. I took it off my phone. I don't have the app on my phone anymore. And they kind of, for me, crossed the line when there was a couple things where I feel like Facebook has crossed the line, where I'm trying to not be on it as much. And I just don't want my community to feel like they have to go there, so I'm in the search for how to fix that. We have a mobile coaching application that goes with Excy. It has coaching, has videos, it has, guided workouts, all kinds of stuff. Maybe, they could connect in there at some point. But I think Discord might be.
It might be.
Yeah. I just have to figure out if people are comfortable with Discord, and I think it's
probably educate them on it, coach them on it.
I think it's like an old school forum, right? Like old school
you're
threaded
right.
discussions.
Actually, you're right. It is just like that.
So I feel like that's like, we just go back a little bit more on threaded discussions and and having them more tailored to, what, like we have people who have, like, there's this disease called POTS disease. Okay. It's highly impacted for young women. And I've seen a huge uptake in this disease since COVID started. And most of the people who come to us, they had COVID, and this is a long COVID reaction to it. And it's a horrible disease. It's like you exercise, you feel horrible afterwards, but it's the best thing that you can do, right? How do you stay motivated when you have something like that? You stay motivated by connecting with other people who are going through the same thing. And I feel like I haven't done my job in connecting them in that way. And so I'm committed to that, and especially the diseases that are really hard, and I mean, MS is hard. I mean, it's the things that people, I'm convinced that I have the most inspiring customers on the planet, because you see people who they can exercise and they don't. And I don't judge that by any means, but when you see people who can barely move, finding ways to exercise, you just have a new appreciation for it, but I want to connect them. Like we have this one customer who I love her. She's in London, and she has cerebral palsy. And we actually created a custom solution for her. And like, I would love to see her do fitness videos. I've got another woman who's blind. Like, she wanted to become a blind instructor, for other people who are blind. So there's lots of things I feel like if I could get a strong community component going, we could do that.
So is it safe to presume that your marketing background gave you a great leg up, a great advantage in the Kickstarter?
I think so. I think I couldn't afford me. I'm pretty sure I couldn't afford me, right? I'd be too expensive. And so, yes, I think my background in marketing is, yeah. I mean,
and was
we built a great product.
Was the Kickstarter pretty successful?
We were successful. We reached I set a low goal. I used Kickstarter for what it's truly designed for. I wanted to do a product market fit. I wanted to figure out who would buy us. Would people actually pay for this? Did people have this problem? And
what year was the Kickstarter?
2016.
16, okay. So pretty kind of recent.
Yeah, so we raised, I think our goal was 19,000. We raised 23, and we shipped for our first 12 units, we shipped immediately. I had already invested in the product. I was ready to go. And then the rest of the orders we shipped in 3 months, so it was like, I'm in if you guys are in.
So when someone buys a product, they buy it, I'm guessing they only have to buy it one time, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything do you have any additional revenue that you get off it? Like any, I don't know,
we have a rental program. So I have a rent, you can either rent it short term, month to month. And a lot of times those are people who have had an injury, broken leg, broken ankle, upper body. They want to use upper body is primarily that use case. Torn ACL, we see that one a lot. Then we have a month-to-month rentals. 12-month rentals, like rent to own. And then I don't upcharge it.
Okay. But so there's no upcharging, nothing like that. There's no, get this, but in order, how some people, they like sell a product. If you want the directions, pay $10,000.
No.
Okay.
No. And it's interesting. Like Excy is for 5 years, all I did was Excy. I didn't do anything else because I wanted people to see that I was taking good care of myself. I was in good shape, good health, and all I did was Excy.
Yeah, probably send the wrong message. You're 5'7", 500 pounds and could barely walk.
Yeah, and also I was very strict on, hey, I'm gonna do this 6 days a week, 20 minutes. I do high intensity interval training. That's all I do. And a year ago, 2 years during the pandemic, I did buy a tonal system, and it's the first fitness product that I've bought. And I use it, like once a week, sometimes twice a week. And it is a subscription-based model. They have great content. It's $50 a month. And without that content, without paying the $50, the device is completely useless. I don't like that. Right. And I mean, as a user, I'm kind of like, I actually don't use a lot of their content. I create my own, and I feel like charge me $10 for that. Right. But I do want companies to make money, right? We have to make money. We have to have a good revenue model. So eventually I do want to have a subscription-based content for Excy around particular diseases and injuries where, hey, if you get a diagnosis, here's your subscription to work through that. If you tear your ACL, here's your subscription to work through that with your physical therapist, right? But here's a boatload of free content. Here's an extremely great app that you can use, right? That it works by itself. You don't need anything else. but if you need extra content and niche target, if you will, niche content, then we'll create that for you, right?
Can you talk about how you combine the world of exercise and the world of tech with the actual product and the mobile app?
Yeah. So I had worked, a lot of the companies that I worked with who were my clients in the marketing days, were mobile companies. Like they had mobile app companies. OfferUp, for example, like as a mobile app, lots of other examples. And so I had done a lot of, hey, I want this feature, I want that feature, I want this feature in terms of what's going to make this a successful kind of PR launch. These are the things I needed to do. This is the minimal viable product. And, so I had been through a lot of that and suggestions on design, suggestions on features, but not actually creating it myself. Right. And I'm surprised, honestly, I'm surprised that somebody didn't tell me to like go fly a kite at some point. Right. Cause you're like an entrepreneur is like, Michelle, we've already thought about that. Right. No. And, so I had, we have an iOS developer and we have an Android developer who helped me build the app. I designed it in terms of what I wanted it to do, and worked with a graphic design artist and picked the color scheme and, kind of what this is the bare minimum of what it has to do when it's a free app.
And the developers, you already knew them from previous relationships?
No, I just started asking around, our iOS developer, for example, is the son of my husband's colleague. And he was creating a mobile application for a company that he was working with. And I brought him in to create ours. Yeah. And then the Android developer was his friend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Can you talk some more detail about the challenges of being a non-tech founder, trying to build a tech product?
I have not run into the normal, here's what I'd say. I have a co-founder who complements my skills tremendously. His background is engineering. His background is he's worked with startups. He has brought, companies to the masses worldwide. And so he has done, I just get to tell him what I want, right? Okay, I want it to be this much weight. I want it to be this size. I want this much resistance. Like, can you please make this happen? Right. And he built it. And so it's been a wonderful collaboration, and then he doesn't have to worry about marketing, but he's pretty marketing savvy guy, so he has suggestions. So I listen to him on marketing suggestions and sales suggestions, and he listens to me on product. And so there's no way neither one of us could afford each other on our own. Right. So it was a perfect match. I can't imagine doing this without a co-founder.
So how did you meet your co-founder?
He's my uncle.
Uncle? Oh,
Yeah.
That's a
Helpful.
little advantage, right?
Oh yeah. So my whole life I've known him, like not super close, but as the bike guy. I mean, he rides his bike everywhere. I mean, Mike has probably I think at the time of starting the company, he had like 150,000 miles that he's probably put in on a bike. He's probably like over 200 now. He rides everywhere. He is a hardcore cyclist. There's nobody better than, to kind of, when I had the idea, I called him. I was like, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?
So Michelle, how often do y'all do like engineering updates, like update the platform and make changes to it based on customer feedback, whatever?
The core product itself is done. Like there's, but like if you look on our website, the pedals are black and they're different. We upgraded the pedal because I just, we wanted to upgrade the pedal where people could easily pedal with a cushion on one side. So we just randomly did that. The way that we adjusted the heights in the first model, we just updated it. So there's little tweaks all the time here and there, but the foundation of the product is not going to change.
So where is the product actually made out? Can you talk about how the product's made, where it's made out? Just like what the factory process is done.
Yeah. So everything. So the majority of Excy is made in Ohio. So everything is manufactured. It's fabricated in Ohio, and but like the axle comes out of LA. We have a hardware company in LA that builds the axle. And there's one piece that's made in Taiwan, and that's the base here. This comes out of Taiwan. Taiwan is the bicycling center of the world. And, it's funny, everybody's like making in, somewhere else, like, primarily in China. And the US is really good in metal fabrication. The metal, I mean, it's just amazing. And so, we've been able to stay where we're, manufactured in the US, and it's in Ohio.
How do you decide on the actual material? Like, how do you decide like on like, metal versus steel versus aluminum versus
So
plastic?
light was important, right? I mean, if somebody knows welding and they know metal, the first thing they do is look at the welds. The welds are it's really good. It's a really good product. So I stand on Excy, and so what would happen, right? When this is kind of funny, when we created the Kickstarter version, and then all of a sudden I have people sending me videos of them standing on it. I'm like, don't stand. It's not safe, right? Because the base just wasn't safe enough to stand on. And then I started standing on it, and I'm like, this is awesome. So I mean, it's an intense, crazy workout, but it's a lot of fun. So it has to be sturdy. It has to be sturdy. And then there are certain metrics that you have to you have to hold a certain number of weight and all of those things, that are just basic rules that you have to have. So we reach, you start there and then maybe increase it. Right. So, but there's no weight limit for Excy. It's the only exercise bike that there's no weight limit for.
Can you talk about how do you like negotiate like labor deals with different factories? How does that work?
No, we've had the same manufacturers the entire time, and they've been really good to work with. It's like we started off smaller volume, and they're betting on us as much as we're betting on them. It's like, hey, work with us now. We're just going through kind of, we're small, and our intentions are to grow. And when we grow, we're going to grow with you, and so they feel like, I share customer testimonials with our manufacturers so that they know that what we're doing and what they're doing matter. It changes people's life. And so a lot of times we use that content that we create, not only to, for marketing purposes, but to just let our manufacturers know that, hey, we're here, we're keeping at it, and we're helping people, so we've had really, really good partners on the manufacturing side.
Do you have to have any type of insurance in case someone sues you for oh, I fell off, or whatever like that?
We have liability insurance. You have to carry that. And I think for even to go to a trade show, you have to have insurance, so when we exhibit at a trade show, they want to see that you have insurance. So there's the business operations side of needing insurance. And then there's also the safety side, but there's a lot of things you can't do unless you have insurance. And we're in several hospitals. We have to show that we have insurance.
Has anyone actually sued you?
No. And don't fit we're a small company.
That's good.
It's such a safe, it's such an easy to use product.
So, so you're pretty happy with manufacturers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a plan like double production, triple production, or you're just on a little glide path right now as far as growth?
Here's my strategy. So how do I say? I have 2 years until my son is out of high school. Actually now so he's a junior. We're approaching the end of his junior year. Ask me that question when he's done with high school. So I want to enjoy this time with him. And I've been involved with several billion-dollar companies who have gone from zero, to total ubiquity and killing it. I think it's a minimum of 70 to 80 hour work week, minimum, to pull that off. I'm not ready to do that right now. And it's taken me a long time to get to that point of being that honest with myself. So ask me that question in a year.
Okay. So you talked about some already, but can you talk more about the advantage of using this as a physical therapy organization?
So there's a couple sayings in physical therapy. Motion is lotion. Okay. So for the joint. So if we can get you barely moving, right? If you're completely sedentary, but we can get you moving, that's a place to start. Even in the ICU, if we can even get if I would have had Excy when I had my injury, I would not have gotten a blood clot. I wouldn't have, because I would have had my feet above my heart. I would have been doing calf pumps, and it would have sucked the entire time. It would have hurt. I would not have wanted to do it, but I would have done it. Right. So if we can get people, even in the ICU, just getting their feet above their heart, I have people doing small back and forth motions, tiny motions, right? Calf pumps, feet above your heart. What can we do with that? And then turning it around and pedaling your arms. So my aunt has brain cancer. She's dying. And I sent her one of our hospital bikes, and she sent me a video of her pedaling in bed, right? Of pedaling her arms in bed. And that movement is game changing. It's when you're in a hospital, you're not just talking about calories or whatever. You're talking about being able to have a bowel movement. You're talking about, keeping your blood flow going. It's like getting your blood pressure up. There's so many things that exercise does besides, help you fit in a pair of jeans. So, and when it comes to physical therapy, it's range of motion. It's motion is lotion for the joint. And there's getting from one place to another, right? And small, like one thing with Excy where it really comes into play is nobody's going to go to a gym for 5 minutes, right? It's like this mindset of, if I can't go 45 minutes to an hour, I'm not going to do it, right? And that's just not what the science says, right? And so the science, it's like, no, exercise for 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes, like, and an hour or 2 hours, go 5 minutes, and then maybe 3 times a day you're doing 5 minutes, right? Like a lot of times people are, they're not going to do that anywhere else. But they'll do that in their bed, and they'll do it while they're watching their favorite show, so that's kind of where we're meeting them where they're at, so that we can, and sometimes that might be the only thing that all they can do for their whole life, right? Like 5 minutes, 3 times a day, so it's everything from like circulatory system, drainage, lymph drainage during cancer, all kinds of different things that you can do.
What's your advice to someone who like hasn't exercised for say 10, 20 years, they're unmotivated? What's your advice to them of course, just get started is a great advice, but how do you get someone to motivate themselves to just get started? They haven't done it for a while.
I have this process that I like to say of starting with your why. And, it goes back to like, why are you doing anything? Like, why do you want to exercise more? And if it's a vanity play, then okay, right? Let's start with the vanity play. If it's to have more energy, if it's to, like for me, I didn't want to have a heart attack when I'm in my 50s, and so, and I want to be able to run, I want to be able to ski with my son, I want to be able to mountain bike. I want to be able to do all until I'm like as old as possible, right? There's this, I heard this, it's like, I want to die young, right? As late as possible.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I love that. Right. So it's like getting to the why. Like for me, that's my why. I want to be able to do all these things, until I don't even know if I want to be on this planet when I can't do those things. Right. So I think you start with your why. And sometimes it literally is like, I want to have energy to play with the grandkids. I don't want to fall. I don't want to be out of breath, when they come over or feel exhausted when they leave. You're still going to feel exhausted when they leave because kids are draining. But, it's like, I think it starts by getting into your why. And then starting from there, well, what does it take? And also, what am I willing and able to do? Both, right? Because a lot of times people will be willing to do something, but they're not able to. Or they'll be able to do something, but not willing. And so I think it's finding this like match of where you're both willing and able equally, if that makes sense.
It does. What a lot of people do, they work all through the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Oh, I'll have fun when I retire at 65. Hit 65, their body completely breaks down, right? Yep. And they can't do anything.
No. Yeah. And it's funny. Like my dad is 71 and worked at a desk his whole life. And like I guess I had 2 heart attacks. And a lot of that I count to just having a sedentary job. He used to smoke. When I was young, he used to drink. And when he retired, he lost like 30 pounds the first year. We do not realize how much that sitting at our desk all day is actually impacting our health, and how much just a little movement. So like, because that's just the nature of our modern workforce is sitting, right? For a lot of people, I take breaks, like take little breaks. Even this sounds ridiculous. Drink water, right? If you can do one thing, drink water, right? Because it forces you to get up to go to the bathroom. And it literally can be sometimes like as simple as that. That will force you to get up. And that getting up is going to increase your heart rate. Maybe during you get up, you can do some arm circles. You can do some calf raises. You can do some, squats or whatever. But yeah, drink a lot of water and that will force you to get up.
Michele, talk about the background of the name of the company, why Excy?
Yeah. So it's short for exercise cycling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's so funny. We were going through all of this stuff. Like, what do we name it? What do we name it? What do we name it? And Mike, who's my co-founder, right? He had the word Excy in an Excel spreadsheet as the label for the base. Like, and so we're like, so he was like, why don't we name Excy? It actually means something. It's 4 characters, easy to remember. So that's, yeah, straightforward.
Michelle, can you talk more about your own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So, I would say I've learned a lot. And what I've learned is to avoid the peaks and the valleys.
That's so
Right.
hard to do sometimes, though.
It's really hard. And my husband has been a really good, so marketing is, so my husband's a sales guy. Okay. And he is a stack ranked. What is the revenue? Right. And being a salesperson is, to me, the closest thing to being an entrepreneur. Right. It's like you have to create your own business plan. How are you going to grow your territory? How are you going to do everything? Right. And then all of your peers know how you're doing because you're stack ranked. I think everybody should be stack ranked, by the way. And then my background is on the marketing side. And so I would just I've learned a lot from him. Like one time I gave him a pitch and he's like, "You're like the worst salesperson ever." And he's really good at it. So I've learned sales is super, super, super important. And you have to learn how to do it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs avoid sales.
Yeah.
The more you can talk to customers, that is the core of everything, the better. So I would say learn sales, for sure. And on that peak and the valley is sometimes, it's like, how do you fill the gap when there are valleys? And I think that's been, I have my little techniques of things I do. But I think that's key.
So you said you have a customer in London, right?
I have
a customer in London.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What other countries you have your product in?
Oh gosh, we're probably in at least 20 countries.
20 countries.
Yeah. If I'd have to count, but yeah, I mean, Canada is definitely our second most where people purchase from, for sure. Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, Singapore, Dubai, the UK. We just got a hospital.
So how they find out about you? You have some kind of marketing plan that's word of mouth?
It is word of mouth, and it is content marketing. We have grown the entire company organically, primarily through content marketing efforts.
How often do people send you videos of them using the product?
Not enough. It's not enough. What they send me pictures of? They send me pictures of their cat and their dog sitting on the plaque. Like, look at so-and-so's enjoying the, and I'm like, that's awesome. But can I have a picture of you doing it? But I do get pictures a lot. I wish I would get more. I still like the cat photos, obvious, but I get pictures of, the cat sitting on their lap while they're pedaling. I get pictures with the dog sitting on the lap while they're pedaling. The other day, a customer sent me a picture of them just absolutely really hammering a workout in their hallway. It was awesome. Or the other day, a lady sent me a picture. She bought Excy and she uses it in her closet. She has a TV in her closet. She has a huge closet, and that closet's like her workout room. So she just sent me, here I am in my closet. So I love it when people send photos. It's awesome.
Through the mobile app, are you able to track how often people use your product through the mobile app or anything like that? Like they're using 10% of the time, 20% of the time, you track that?
Right now we track average calories that are used, location, are they using it at home? They self-report all of this, right? So are they using it at home? Are they using it at work? Are they using it on the go? Calories, duration, things like that. Eventually we can get a lot. There's a lot you can do on that.
So far, what's the craziest place someone's used the product at that they've told you?
The craziest place. I don't know the answer to that question. We have one customer. He's a Paralympic gold medalist, and he probably travels with Excy more than anybody I know, even more than I do. And he doesn't have legs, and he uses Excy when he's on the road for his traveling. So he probably uses us in the most places, I think. He just made the world team. We sponsor him. So I'm working on video. We want to do a video with him. But yeah, no, mostly it's sidelines of the kids' sports. Nowhere too crazy. I used it one time. We were on a road trip and I was pedaling my arms from the front seat, while my husband's driving. So
from the point of view, talk about your perspective on startup founders bootstrapping versus raising VC money or angel money.
I think it all depends on the company. I mean, if you are trying to build a $1 billion brand and you're trying to do it really fast, and that's your goal, you only can do that by VC. Maybe not only, but that's the fastest path to get there. right? So I think if you're, like sometimes, like let's say you're trying to build a $50 million company, maybe you can do that with angel financing. Like for us, when I first started Excy, I had all intentions of building the $1 billion company, getting VC, doing all of that, just because that's what I knew. That's like what I knew how to do. And then as I started like getting into it and figuring out that the reason I'm doing this has so much more to do with who we're serving, and no VC in their right mind, nor would I ask them, would write me a check knowing that I want to work with all these different populations. They would think I was nuts, right? Go pick one, but do joint replacement and focus on that. Do Parkinson's disease and focus on that. And I just couldn't do it. I broke all the marketing 101 rules, like that I know that I'm breaking, and it sounds ridiculous, but I don't care. So I couldn't take VC because I mean, it's like, I wouldn't ask, so does that mean that we don't have an upside to become $1 billion brand? I think we do, so, and I think like I wanted to do it my way at my pace, and bootstrapping to me is kind of the only way you can do that, right? Because I don't owe anybody anything. It's mine to mess up. And also like I've never borrowed money from people. I don't like to ask people for money. And so if I'm going to ask you for money, I'm asking you for money because I know I'm going to return, 10x of what I'm asking for. And until I can do that, I'm not asking anybody for money.
I can't even name, but didn't the lady who started Spanx do the same thing? She bootstrapped and she basically sold like crazy amount of money recently.
Yeah. That's why honestly, I love how I built this with Guy Raz on NPR. Like she did a great, you hear all the crazy stories, right? Right now, so many people, you only hear the success, right? And you see people growing and nobody talks about the crap until they make it, right? And you have friends, like I have friends who I lean on, they lean on me. We tell each other what's really going on, and if you don't have that, like that's how you bridge those peaks and valleys. But it's just it's a hard process.
You always see the press release. So-and-so just raised a $20 million B round. They leave out, they started like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They went through 2 co-founders, 6 products, right?
Yeah.
Everyone sees the myth stuff, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk some about the journey of the entrepreneurial journey? Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm gonna start a company, 6 months be Mark Zuckerberg, 6 months be whoever, right? Think about the process and patience you need.
I think it's a long haul, minimum of I would say a 7-year effort, right? So how long are you willing to do this? Unless you're completely and absolutely obsessed with it, I could see where it'd be very difficult to stay on task, right? It's like for me, when I started the whole thing, I had the idea and then I sat on it for a year and I kept coming back to it like every night because my health was going sideways. And nobody said anything to me, but I knew my health was going sideways. And I just, every night I'm like, I need to do this. And so I think on that entrepreneurial journey, how many times, like, have you told yourself to do it and then you don't, and does it keep you up at night? Like that to me was like a starting point of, all right, it's keeping me up at night. I have to do this. And just, I think sometimes the entrepreneurial journey now, having a teenager, it's kind of like being a teenager. Like it's like an emotional roller coaster. Your hormones are up or hormones are down. You have wins and then you have losses, and you just have to be prepared for that.
So before you started your Kickstarter, in your mind, you have like, did you think your perfect customer was one demographic, and after Kickstarter finished, you're like, okay, my demographic, perfect customer, comes someone completely different?
When I first started the company, I thought it would be busy moms like me who don't have time. And how do I multitask this into my everyday life? Then, and this is before the Kickstarter. So I broke my leg and got the blood clot. And that it became much more focused to me, even before the Kickstarter, that our core audience would absolutely relate to getting an injury and needing to exercise. I think initially, so Kickstarter kind of validated that I didn't want it to be about fitness. I didn't want it to be about what your body like of getting in shape and all of those things. Like I wanted it to be about health, and that has been the whole time. I think initially I thought, like I talked to you about, like the people who are not motivated to exercise. And I think I felt like if I made it so easy, right, that they would be motivated to exercise. And I've learned a lot. That's not how it works. There are lots of people who just don't care about exercise, and that's okay. It's just not a priority. It's deprioritized, and that's okay.
When you talk about the stats, they're like 80% of people don't exercise, or 55%. I'm just like, we're a very sedentary society.
We're a very sedentary society. And I think COVID is making that a lot. It's making it worse.
And on top of that, we eat like 25 times a day, snacking or whatever. We're back in the 1800s, might eat like once or twice a day. And
yeah. I mean, the weight increase during this pandemic is, we already had a sedentary pandemic before the pandemic. It's worse. We had a physical inactivity pandemic worldwide before COVID. And I actually found myself so incredibly, I just pissed off, I would say, during the pandemic, that the media did not focus at all about getting people to move. Yeah. It was like, binge watch. Okay, let's talk about binge watching and exercising at the same time. And there's nothing on that. And yeah.
I mean, I think the stats show that most people who die from COVID was a bad thing. Most of them had other stuff going on, right? Mm-hmm. Overweight, diabetes.
Most of us do. Yeah. Over the age of 40 and 50, most of us do.
Yeah. I don't think anyone over 40 has perfect health.
No. It's like I don't have the number, just like the number of people in the US alone who live with a disability is extremely high, right? The number of Americans who live with one chronic health condition, extremely high. 2, 3, it's really, really high, And so, I mean, exercise.
And this is the people who know they have that stuff. Some people don't even go to the doctor to get anything checked out, so they have no clue what's wrong with them.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of work to do. And even if I could change things, even in elementary schools, the number of kids who are not, physically active, and
they still do PE in school, don't they?
They do PE in school, and
of course it's not as hard as physical as back in our day, right?
And during the pandemic, it's like, we have to find a way to address some of this stuff.
How does exercise help you with your mental health?
Well, it's everything. I mean, from brain fog to the evidence around depression, anxiety, mental health conditions, and what exercise can do to help alleviate and prevent. I mean, there's no pill that's going to do what exercise does. Is it going to improve somebody's, if somebody has severe depression, is it going to make that go away? Absolutely not. There's working with your doctor to figure out what is the pharmaceutical that coincides, but alongside exercise. And enough doctors don't prescribe exercise, right? There's not enough information around, medical fitness, if you will, but the science is overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming. You cannot get the benefits of exercise in a pill. And pharmaceutical companies, they don't like you to exercise. Would you? You're going to eat in your margins.
Of course not.
Right? So.
Yeah. How does this, well, let me ask you this. You've been doing this for 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any time you're like, man, this is too hard, I don't want to do this anymore?
I don't think I have come to, this is hard, I don't want to do that. I've come to, I need to make money. I need to pay myself, and I need to, I'm going to be 49 in a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden I'm feel like I'm 20 again on my income, and that's a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. I think if more founders were like, you know what, I need money because I need to pay myself to make this idea real. Right. And so often it's like, yeah, I need to pay my team, and I'm not asking to pay myself a huge salary. I'm going to take half of what I'm worth, but I need to pay myself. I have bills to pay. My team has bills to pay. Right. So if that money is in addition to marketing, right, but it's actually paying bills. So I do consulting, to help pay bills. And I'm okay with that.
Now your background is not in exercise, right?
No.
Can you talk about, it's my opinion, I see a lot of great companies get started by people who have no background in that demographic, right? Mm-hmm. Can you talk why that seems like it's so many great startup companies started by people who have no anything to do with the industry they're changing?
Most of the time I've run into founders, it's more like, hey, I have this problem personally, or my sister or my friend or somebody has this problem personally. And so there's some kind of connection to the problem. Even like, let's say with Daryl Cavins and Mark Badon, when they started Zulily, it's a clothing and site for moms, babies, and kids, right? They're not moms, right? But they're married to moms and they're married and they have children. And so, they created a site, yeah, for moms. And, but, so it's like, do you have to be so connected to it? Does it have to be your personal problem? I don't think so. There's lots of success stories where they don't have to, but I think you just have to find, it's more about, are you insanely passionate about the idea? Because then if you're insanely passionate, you'll find a way, right, to figure it out.
What's your take on the current Seattle entrepreneurial, now I got brain lock, the current Seattle entrepreneur community, like pros and cons
I
of it?
love Seattle. I love this community. I think, and like we did the WTIA, had a cohort where we participated in, got to work with, startups. So I love that. I think there are amazing initiatives around this town, that you can get involved with. And from cocktail parties to networking events to, getting together with people who do hardware. Like there's not a lot of people in this town who do hardware, right? So like when I reach out to somebody who has done hardware and I ask them for advice, they call me back. They give me tips. They give me advice. They tell me what events to go to. I think we have one of the best cities in the world to build a company.
Any advice on somebody like somebody just moved to Seattle, they want to do a startup?
Mm-hmm.
What advice you have to them, like to get involved, and what should they do with that?
I think if I just moved to Seattle, I would start reading GeekWire for sure. I would check out WTIA, and then I would look in my local community to see like Bellevue, what's going on in my town, right? What's going on in Bothell, and then connecting with other people, who are doing like-minded things. Schedule meetups, right? Like, especially now we can meet up again. Like, scheduling meetups is just awesome. And there's a couple like groups that I belong to, like they're, where it's like a woman founder based. And I like doing that where I can connect with it, but I like to connect with everybody, not just other women entrepreneurs, but because that's just not how the world works. Right.
So if you're coming, so you're co-founding and two app developers, right?
Yeah.
Is there any plan like bring on more people in the future, or like
For
what
sure.
you can?
Yeah, for sure. Even on the assembly and development and on the manufacturing side, growing that, like we need to,
So eventually take that over, so to speak.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It takes time to build them. And
first, just the money that rent out the facility to do it in,
Yeah,
would be big costs.
neither Mike nor I have this like vision where we have to see our name on the side of the building. It's just not what we're about, by any means. And so, I think sometimes people measure the success of a company based on how much money they've raised and how many people they've hired. And
So totally the wrong metric, right?
I say revenue is at the top of the list.
Yeah, revenue.
Like we have produced revenue every single month that we started, ever since we did the Kickstarter, and is it as high as I'd like it to be? No, right? I want it to be a lot higher, but I just have to work harder to get there.
Now, what other products do y'all sell? You sell other products besides this one right here, right?
We have this one. This is our number one SKU. And we have another one that goes on the weight rack. I have another one that doesn't, I showed you how that slide opens. We have one that doesn't do that. There are certain applications where somebody might not need that. And then we have, we call it the hang in there pedal. What happens when people lie down and pedal, especially if they're really deconditioned, then their foot might fall off the pedal because they're not strong enough to pick their foot up and put it on the pedal. And so a physical therapist might have to hold it on there for them. So we created this, we call the hang in there pedal that you just put your feet on. And then we have a heel strap that holds it. And I tell people like, it's like bicycling shoes that would do the same exact thing. But if you want to be independent, like putting a cycling shoe on is hard, clipping out is really hard. So we have our hang in there pedal. We also have this bar that you hold on. We call the hang on bar. And you attach it to the black material while you're lying down and you hold on to it. And I mean, it's like doing a bunch of leg presses, just hammering after, like that's a really intense workout. I love it. It's not for everybody, but that's another accessory that we have. And then we have we also have a mobile phone holder that attaches to the device if you want to look at it like a screen.
Is there any plan like build or make any new products, like something totally different from this?
I get wild hairs all the time. So I'm actually like, I feel like we have a lot of customers who are in wheelchairs. There are a couple things, it depends on their injury, like their spinal cord injury. We have a solution that I think addresses probably 70% of spinal cord injuries. That 30% needs help. So I'm committed to figuring that out.
When you build the products, do you have to do like any like scientific research or medical research to see how it's going to affect people's spinal injuries or whatever the case may be?
There's so much the science, like it's an exercise bike, right? And an upper body ergometer. The science is already there for all exercise bikes, right? So we don't necessarily have to do like new research on the medical applications because it's already done. Now, like we have, like we just had a facility. They bought 15 bikes and they are creating an entire new project within the hospital. Right now, people, when they have dialysis, the kidney dialysis, they come into a dialysis center, right? And they're there for a long time, like, and they're bored because you just have to sit there forever. So they're creating an entire program to bring dialysis into people's homes. And they're going to pedal Excy while they're having dialysis. They're doing the research. What does that do like they're doing all the research on that. And then we have a couple of universities who are doing their own research on applications of exercise as it relates to disease and certain like Parkinson's disease. Like we know that Parkinson's disease, the more vigorous you can exercise, the better. So like we have one, there's pedaling with your legs, but pedaling with your arms gets your heart rate up faster. It's like this wonderful secret that people don't know. And so they're doing their own research to figure out, can we get people who have Parkinson's disease, get their heart rate up faster, more vigorously with upper body cycling, right? In addition to what they can maybe do with their legs. So we let the universities and the hospitals do that.
When you go do like yourself, like different facilities, are you able to say, if you take on this product to your facility, it's going to increase something by this amount, decrease this amount, anything like that?
No, right now, I honestly, like we're probably in about 20 to 25 hospitals at this point. They all find us organically. I have not actively proactively reached out to hospitals. I'm actually bringing on a team right now to specifically do that.
I think that'd be great for you to know. Like you go to a place, hey, if you use
Yeah.
this product, it's going to, increase something by something percent or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
What we do have is we do have the science behind what happens if you get them exercising, right? And getting them outside. Like as soon as they start exercising, there's all kinds of things about getting even bed cycling. If we can get somebody cycling in the ICU, how much faster can you get that patient?
Exactly.
Yeah. The science is already there on that. We're just a different form factor to make it possible.
Here's a question for you. Is there any exercise or any like form of exercise or any like product that's BS, right? Like one of the things, if you know that one exercise where like you're like you're doing the ski machine thing like that.
Yeah.
Like, is there any machine out there that's like is a waste of someone's time? Like, don't do this.
I don't think I think there are a lot of gimmicks. But gimmicks work. Like if you're moving more,
as long as you increase your cardio, right? Or increase your heart rate.
I remember when I can't even remember. It was since I was married. I bought this thing and then you sat down on it and you bend backwards and it's for your abs, right? And the ab doer maybe is what it was called. And like, it is ridiculous, but it works. Like it worked. Like I felt sore afterwards, but it was boring and I didn't like it. But, so I think whatever works for you, then it's worthy of buying, right? Like you can't put a price tag on your health. So if you're going to buy something that's going to help you, then whatever.
You might not know this, but most health is the genetics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if someone's predisposed to be overweight or like heart disease, I'm sure statutory exercise will help mitigate that, right?
So for me, I have a genetic pathway of heart disease. I lost my brother when he was 48 from a major catastrophic heart problem. My dad has had 2 heart attacks in his 50s. Like just my genetics do not control me, right? And it depends on what's going on, but the longer I exercise and the more I take care of myself, whatever my genetics, it's going to be helpful, right? So Mike, my co-founder, I mean, I don't know anybody else who's in better shape than him. Right. And he got cancer. Right. So just, you can do everything right and you can still get cancer. Right. Everything right and still have a heart attack. But like Mike got cancer, right? He was pedaling Excy 5 days after. And within, I think, 2 weeks, he's back on his bike. It's ridiculous, right? Because just took such good care of himself. So I'm not a fan of, oh, my genetics, so I can't do this. It's like, you gotta, I see people, I have a customer, he's paralyzed from the waist, like from the chest down. And I can't even, he sent me a video. He lies down on the ground. Okay. I can't even do this. He puts it on his chest and over like one side, like one side is like this and he's lying down. Okay. Like this.
Seems very uncomfortable.
He reaches up and pedals his hands. Like, there's just no excuse. I mean, I'm telling you, the things that I see people do who are seriously just challenges like you wouldn't believe. They will do anything to exercise. Those are my people, right? I mean, and then I'll do anything to help, right? So, yeah, I think we have control over a lot of things.
So what percentage of your customers have like no challenges, so to speak, or disabilities versus like someone who doesn't?
I think nearly all of our customers have some kind of injury, right? Whether it's temporary or permanent, a health condition or disability. And when I talk about like people who have an injury, I'm talking about world-class athletes who have had an injury, right? And next thing you know, they're like, torn ACL is at the top of the list. Broken ankles are at the top of the list. Ankle surgery, right? So they are active. And then next thing you know, they find themselves with an injury, a diagnosis, or disease.
So I'll ask you for your social media platforms later.
Yeah.
But what social media platforms are you using to help get out the word by Excy?
YouTube, I think, is our primary. All right. I've done them all. Even TikTok. And I'm like, my son's so embarrassed that I'm on TikTok, right? But I've done them all and I cut back severely, like way
So YouTube's
back.
your go-to right now?
Yeah. And even, we have a lot of videos on YouTube. But I think YouTube is the most effective for us. I don't do hardly any anymore. I just find them to be a waste of time that don't lead to revenue. And maybe I'm not doing them right? But the photographer or the people I would have to hire to do good content on a consistent basis, maybe someday, right? When we have a community manager who can manage all of that stuff. But I don't, maybe just me personally, like social media, I think it's time we kind of find some other way to engage.
Like Discord?
I'm hoping.
So you already talked about this before, but can you go into more detail, like really good detail, like why you started a company, what you're focused on now?
Sure.
And what's your vision, you and your co-founder's vision for the company moving forward?
Sure. So I started the company, because I struggled with exercise personally, and I didn't want to have a heart attack in my 50s. I hurt myself, and Excy was the answer to that. What's funny about that is since Excy, right, I have torn, 2 times I've torn both hamstrings. I have flown over the handlebars on my mountain bike and hurt my shoulder. I'm my own customer. Like, I am an active person. I get hurt.
And you're not slowing down anytime soon. I'm not thinking.
No. Like the other day, I actually fell walking my dog. I have a puppy and he tripped me. And I swear I almost blacked out because I thought, oh, he made me tear my hamstring again. And a torn hamstring is not fun. It hurts. It takes forever to heal.
And it's like it never healed.
Oh, it's like forever, right? So that's why I started. And it fits my active lifestyle. Like, I just managed to, like, I'm an active person. If you're an active person, I ski, I come home and so I kind of look at Excy. It's a prehab for me at this point, because I know I'm trying to prevent injury and then I'm trying to recuperate on injury when I have it. So, that's why I started the company. And in terms of where I want to take it, it comes down to, really driving more awareness from the device itself and what we can do, and getting more stories and customer stories, to showcase real people with real challenges exercising. with the hope to inspire more people to do it. And, and then we get to a point where the mobile coaching application that goes with it gets really smart and gets really smart in recommendations. It gets really smart using data, and right now we are probably the least technological device, out there. And that's by design. Like, technology is not always the answer. We've been able to do a lot without tech, right? We do have mobile coaching, we have all of that, but you can do a lot with the device by itself. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot of room for even integration with Apple, Apple Watch and Garmin and these devices to, and get smarter about diseases, is kind of where I'd like to take this, and also there's absolutely no reason that we don't have Excies in every single hospital, every single one. ICU,
that's a pretty big goal.
There should not be a cancer, like a place where people are getting chemotherapy without an Excy. There shouldn't. Why sit in the chemo chair, right? And sit there when we know that exercise helps. So yeah, that's the, it's especially after seeing people who are like my aunt in the hospital with, like, why not get them moving? It's a disservice not to.
Can you talk more about the app itself? Does the app provide like personal coaches, or like what does the app actually do?
So here's how I look at the app right now. It's kind of like watching like old school VHS, like watching a video, right? So you have your choices. Like, we have coaching that's all interval based. They're all short, 7 minutes, 23 minutes is the longest workout that we have. And it's like a guided workout. And it shows you when to go hard and when to rest, when to go hard and when to rest. I'm a huge fan of interval training, giant fan, super efficient. So it does that. And then we also have videos that you can follow along. It's me. I've never watched any of my own stuff because it's too embarrassing. And I make, I say ridiculous things in these videos sometimes, and it's just to pass the time and have fun. And then there's training from physical therapists. So there's no direct connection to the device today. Like, it's not very hard to build a sensor, right? Like, if we need a sensor, if enough people want a sensor, we can do a sensor. It hasn't been a requirement. And if you listen, this is a note for entrepreneurs, everybody, every single person in the beginning, you have to have a sensor. The device has to talk to your phone. No, it doesn't, right? So just because somebody tells you have to do something doesn't mean anything. Yeah, so the mobile coach can get a lot smarter.
How often do you go skiing?
This year, Steve, like for locals, right? Yeah. Stevens Pass was horrible. I bought like a season's pass. I go up there and half the mountain's closed. We have like epic snow this year, right? And I'm waiting in line forever. So we get up at like 4:30 in the morning. We head up there. We ski for like 3 or 4 hours before other people get there, and then we leave. But this year, like, I have not made full use of that pass because I just didn't. The mountain was closed.
How far? That's pretty close by here, right?
Yeah, it's super close. It's like what, an hour, maybe an hour and a half.
And that's like the local ski place everyone goes to.
Yeah.
So why skiing versus snowboarding?
Well, I tried snowboarding. So I grew up when I started skiing when I was like probably 12, 13. And my friend's dad taught me how to ski. So I know how to ski. And I went snowboarding a couple of times and I spent the entire day on my butt. And I'll never forget, we were up at Whistler and I snowboarded through the day, and I was last run. And I like wanted to make it epic. So I go all the way to the top of the mountain. And by the time I was so spent from falling nonstop. And by the time I don't even remember, I was maybe halfway down. I sat on the snowboard and I rode it down sitting on it. I couldn't take it. I was so done. So I just love to ski.
Yeah.
I think if I maybe lived where I could ski like out my backyard, I would probably try to do both, but it's like I only have so much time and I love to ski, so I just ski.
So what else do you do for fun besides exercise and snowboarding?
I mountain bike. I have 2 dogs.
Anything outdoors, adventure stuff.
Yeah, if I can be outside, one good habit that I have during this pandemic is I take my dogs on a walk every day. And I have a new puppy. He's 7 months old. And if I like today, so he managed to break our fence and I had to lock him in the house without the access to the backyard for like 2 hours. I don't know what I'm coming home to.
Yeah, that might be bad.
Oh, it's bad. I don't know. But
something's gonna be chewed up.
Yeah, I have a feeling, but hopefully it's not like the couch or something. So I get them out every day. I get them out for like the first year of the pandemic. I just walked them on a bike trail that I live across the street from, and we do like 2 miles a day. And then I've lived in the same house for 20 years. And in the last like 6 months, I discovered we have these amazing trails, like just amazing trails. I'm like, we've lived here for 20 years and
Isn't
I
that
don't know
funny how that works out?
this whole, right? Like, come on. So I do that every day now. And it's steep climbs and I love it. And the dogs love it. So I do that. And, I try to spend time with friends and family. And yeah, that's about it.
So I might have already asked you this, but what advice do you have for new entrepreneurs just getting started out?
New entrepreneurs, I think surround yourself with as many people as you can who have done it before, and so many people are open to mentorships, right? Like reaching out to somebody and say, hey, I'm doing this. Would you mentor me through this process? I have a guy right now. He is creating a new product and he saw our product and it's for the hospital bed. And so he reached out and I signed his NDA, and I was like, hey, I'll take a look and let me see how I can help, And so I think people should reach out to other people, other entrepreneurs, even like, so the with Excy on this piece, we reached out to somebody who was producing a similar product and he was in London. We loved the quality of it, reached out to him. Hey, where do you do this? Where do you have it made? Responsive, told us exactly, gave us a contact, introduced us to a contact. That's who we actually ended up manufacturing, that piece through in Taiwan. It would have been really hard for me to find that without making that, reach out to as many people, talk to as many people as you can. And then also validate the problem, right? Like talk to people and get feedback and run ideas by them. And yeah, so I think sometimes people run into this, like they're afraid to talk too much because they might give somebody else the idea or somebody's going to steal their idea. Like, no, nobody has time for that. Right.
You don't realize whatever idea you have, or how great it is, probably at least 20 people across the world have the same idea.
Right. Talk to people about it. And if somebody can out execute you, you're going to lose anyway. So talk to people about it.
Talk about what's your advice for people finding like good mentors, good advisor people? Cause like some, most people are good, but they're all like scammers out there, right? Who like want to charge you money, kind of rip you off.
Never pay anybody to be a mentor. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't give them a piece of your company to be a mentor either. Like, I think you just, read, I obsessively read. And, I see what other people are doing. And if somebody's doing something interesting, I think you just reach out to them. And I wouldn't say like, oh, please be my mentor. It's like, hey, can we talk?
Mhm.
And can I tell you what I'm doing? You've done something similar and I love what you've done, right? And you truly have investigated things that they've done and then asking for advice and tips and, and see if it leads to like a long-term mentorship.
We talk about this, like people might give you the best advice they can, but it's from their own perspective, right?
Yes,
Like, can you talk about like,
totally.
it might be great advice, but maybe you still got to put your own spin on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's full of advice. Right. And I always find that, I mean, even to the, try this, try this, try this. And sometimes you're just like, of course I've done that. Right. But every time it's like, I always listen, and see what kind of ideas people have. And like, the sensor is an example. Like people said we had to put a sensor on it. And so I think sometimes you have to listen, but do your own research and figure out if it is a must have, it's a nice to have. Can you figure out product market fit without it? And do people really need it? And yeah, so take the advice for sure, but it's not the end all be all for sure.
Yes. Michelle, is there anything I should ask you that I haven't, or anything else you want to talk about?
I think I said this earlier, but whenever people ask me for advice, I try to give the most simple advice possible. And it really like comes down to, and I think this depends on like your age, if you don't have children or you're not married. So I guess this is applicable to more to people who are married and have kids. It's just, don't mess that up. Right. Like just, that's your priority. And, and if you can't balance it all, you just have to really think through doing it. I have a lot of friends who got divorced after starting companies. Right. Or, I have friends too, who, all of a sudden something's going on with their kids and then they, blame themselves. And it's like, you just have to find some kind of balance, in some way. When doing it, your startup in a way where you, unless you're in a bad marriage, right? Then maybe you get a divorce. But, if your marriage is pretty good, then make sure that you prioritize it.
So Michelle, everyone talks about, you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, like keep on going, grinding it out. Is there a time when someone's like, okay, this isn't for me, this is my lifestyle, I need to go back to corporate, whatever?
One, going back to corporate is not failure, right? For me, I would say I actually thought that if I went back and did a consulting work, that it was like I was admitting that I failed. It's not, and not at all, right? It's just admitting that I need to pay my bills. And so I think that if somebody is obsessed, and there's no like proof that there is a potential, then you just have to really, really ask yourself if is it you or is it the idea, right? Is it art? Maybe you're just early, right? Maybe
time is a big thing, right?
Yeah, timing's everything, right? So maybe you're early, maybe you keep at it on the side or, and then get a full-time job while you're doing it on the side until the timing works out, so timing is a lot to do with it.
For your consulting, I guess you're doing marketing consulting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going pretty good for you, I'm guessing.
It's good. I love it because one, I'm better at it than I've ever been because I've done more and I've done my own company and I can relate to the entrepreneur. And also like when you're doing your own startup, you kind of live and breathe it. And it's hard to you don't have as much connection to innovation going on outside of your own company. And so I love it because I get to I had one client and they're doing amazing things in the aerospace industry. And all of a sudden I'm super excited about where things are going in aerospace, right? Or or others who are doing interesting things in women's health or, diversity and inclusion. Like I get to have pieces of all of that, that I think make me better at Excy. And in addition to so it's a win-win on both. I tell my companies, I'm like, listen, Excy is a company that is funded by revenue and other startups. That's right. Me working with companies and then revenue to fund the business.
So who's your perfect consulting client?
Early stage, highly disruptive, have some budget, that they can and they need help with messaging. They need help with content marketing. They need a content marketing plan. They need to figure out what their SEO strategy is. They have a legitimate problem that they're trying to solve that SEO can actually help with.
And this is not under Buzz Builders. It's like something completely different.
Yeah, it's still Buzz Builders.
Still Buzz Builders. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a website.
Okay.
It's kind of word of mouth. And it's mission driven. It's something that I can get behind and feel passionate about myself. And I don't take on too much, just, occasional here and there when I just get super excited about something.
And you charge about an hour by project? How you do that?
By project.
By project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's mostly, by project. I don't like doing hourly. I feel like a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I just know how long things take, so I just make an estimate and I'm always going to over service. So you don't want the hourly rate.
Yeah. So what's like a typical project that you do?
Right now I'm helping one company come in and focus on what their B2B messaging is, creating a new B2B page. How are they going to sell their SaaS solution in the market? How do they talk about it? How do we, generate leads at the top of the funnel? What's the process for moving them through the funnel, to get revenue? What other pages can they build, to increase their organic search ranking? Kind of videos, do we need to produce? What does that content need to look like? Creating customer testimonials, that's just one example.
Can you break down your time between the time you spend on Excy, time you spend on consulting, and time you spend on being your other roles?
I think 50% probably, actually, let's say figure it out. I get sleep. I don't break it down. I break it down into modes.
Modes, okay.
I break it down into mom mode. I break it down into work mode. And then I break it down to wife mode, which I'm, sometimes gets the bottom of the modes, so, and if I had to break it varies day to day, like today, this is where it's an Excy time. And, later on I'll make up for it, but I treat my clients like I treat my own company, and I think about them in the middle of the night and wake up ready to do other things and texting, the entrepreneur at weird hours of the night, hey, we need to do this. Right.
So it sounds like you're pretty detailed and organized, right? Have you always been like that?
No. No, I haven't always been like that. I remember playing sports. I'd forget my cleats. I'd forget my shin guards, my mom had to run them over to me. I I think when I was in college, I played 2 sports and I had a choice. Like, well, one, I was told I couldn't do it because playing 2 sports is really hard.
That's pretty insane, especially at college
It
level.
was crazy.
You know, are they in the same season, or at least for the
different season? So I was in season all year, and you know, they didn't think I could pull that off, and I did it for all 4 years. But the only way they allowed me to do it is that I had to do forced study hall longer than anybody else, and I also had to do more study hall than other people, and that helped me get focused, like prioritize, and figuring out what my learning style was and how I break things down. And yeah, so I've become, by force of nature during college, I think, and that carried on into my profession.
So what's a go-to marketing tool everyone should be using?
You know, Uber Suggest.
Yeah, I know. I follow Neil Patel's podcast.
Neil Patel, I think, has the best content out there.
Yeah, I follow him a lot.
I think Uber Suggest has some wonderful free things that you can use. You know, look at your competitor's website, look at, you know, keywords, look at it. Depends if SEO is part of your strategy, absolutely at the top of the list. You know, I think that's the number one place I would go.
Yes. Can you give us your social media platforms?
Sure.
And whatever you want to have people reach out to you on.
So we're on every channel, like everybody. And I'm a huge fan of short domains. So www.excy.social instead of .com, it's just excy.social will lead you to all of our social platforms. So that way I don't have to name them off everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm active on Twitter. I like Twitter. I think Twitter is probably my platform of choice to communicate with one-on-one. And LinkedIn, you know.
Yeah, I need to get more on Twitter. Like, I don't know. It's like Twitter's good, but there's so much stuff on there, right? So much success.
There is.
But I know there's a lot of HR people on there, a lot of business people, a lot of investors are on there.
List.
Yeah.
Have you ever created a list?
Yeah, I've had some lists. Yeah.
I think the list feature in Twitter.
I need to take better advantage of that.
Yeah, because then you don't have to pay attention to everything.
Yeah.
You know, you can just pay attention to the people that you really want to follow and connect with.
I need to do that.
Yeah. So I'm
Twitter's definitely old school, but it's like everyone's on there. Like,
well, let's see what Elon Musk does with it.
I know, right? That's gonna be very interesting, right?
I think he's fascinating.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think the world is a better place for him being around.
I think we are living in a time with one of the best, like most inspirational people that will go down in history.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
You know, where like all of a sudden you're like, hey, you know, like, oh, we look back at Albert Einstein, right? We look back at all these people. That's Elon Musk.
It is. It's no doubt.
Fascinating. I mean, on it, like randomly, like the fact that Elon Musk does so much. Sometimes when I was telling you, I felt like me going back and doing consulting was kind of a failure. Like Elon Musk, look at what Elon Musk does, right? He is the king of just everything. So yes, you can do more than one startup at a time, right? You can do whatever the heck you want.
Of course, being smart helps out a little bit.
Oh, heck yeah. Right. Yeah. Like he's just like more than smart, right?
Yeah.
Just beyond obsessed.
I watched the show on, I think, Nat Geo a couple of weeks ago. It was basically, following like the first, remember when SpaceX did their first launch the rocket, and they came back and actually landed?
Yeah.
Following the process, there's meetings he had, like people that give him suggestions. He said, have you thought about this, thought about that? Just found out numbers and details and information, how this goes from like one meeting to that's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Like his brain is like,
can you imagine getting in there? Right.
Oh my goodness.
With what he's doing with like his neuro, like
it's like
he has to hook that up to himself. So
your IQ is raised just by being around that guy.
Yeah. So I can't wait to see. I mean, we'll see what happens with Twitter, right? But with him, but yeah, I think the world's a better place because he's in it.
And one thing like people don't realize, there's even Elon Musk with someone. I think it's like something that happens. Tesla stock raise, or basically a week he's like Elon Musk, the number one guy in the world. Everything's going like everything you touch turn to gold.
Yeah.
And the guy even said, "Hey Elon, man, it must be great to be Elon Musk this week. How you feeling?" Actually, my life sucks right now. And he explained all the stuff that went into those successes, right?
Yeah.
Like the missed sleep, the this, the that, the problem. He's like, you know, they're not coming like the bullshit problems, right?
Yeah.
I get the A grade, top notch problems, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of brain power to fix those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's fascinating, beyond fascinating.
That guy, like you're right. He's like Einstein, Tesla. I mean, all those people, right?
We're living and getting to see it.
It's crazy. So many people hate on him, which is crazy to me.
I trust him more than anybody, any politician that I can think of.
Like he should. That's another thing too. Like we have all these politicians, right? Same politicians run, but like people like Elon Musk, you know, Steve Jobs, these entrepreneurs know how to fix things. They never run, right?
Yeah. I was reading an article the other day and it was breaking down trust in 2022. And it was really an interesting article. And it was like, who do people trust the most? And it was media was at the bottom of the list.
No doubt.
Politicians were at the bottom of the list with the media, and CEOs of companies were actually the most trusted. And, there's some tough things about that too, right? But I don't know, we have a lot of work to do in the trust department, like, especially post-pandemic. It's like, I don't know who I trust anymore right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's it. I think we've
Okay.
covered everything. Now I feel like I need to do this in reverse and ask you all these questions.
Yes, it'll be part 2, no doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Michelle, thanks for being here today. We appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.